It's so good to be here this morning. So good to see each one of you. And I just thank God for the study of the Word. I thank God for another Lord's Academy. Oh, it sounds like I'm talking really, really loud. It's the best blessing to be here. And the study has blessed me. It's helping me. I don't know about y'all, but I need help this morning. I need help this morning. Is everything not going like I want it to go? And things sometimes look dreary. Sometimes things get really, really hard. Y'all, I'm telling you, even with money in your pocket and doing what you wanted, things get hard. Things get really hard. And sometimes it just looks like you can't even see your way. But you know, I know God is able. And so the study is helping me. And I just appreciate God for that. And I was saying yesterday even how the series we're in now, I don't know if we're still going there, but Stop the Madness, y'all, that's some kind of series. Because there's madness going on everywhere. There's madness going on everywhere. And I realize even in my own life and with my own thinking, I need to stop the madness. If I'm moving forward, somewhere the madness got to stop. You got to get off the merry-go-round. And you got to keep going. You got to go forward instead of going around and around and around. The same thing. The same thing. Keep going around the same thing and you keep getting the same results and you keep talking about the same thing and doing the same thing and nothing ever changes. And nothing ever changes until something changes. And so you got to do something different. So I thank God for the revelation. I thank God for the fresh revelation. I just appreciate him so much for his word. His word never gets stale. Never gets old. I tell you, everything that we're going through, whatever it is that we need, we're going to find it in the Word. And I thank God for the Word of God on today. And so Pastor said we've gone on through Saul and we've gone on through Absalom. Now Absalom is dead. What we going to do now? And so this place where we are now is where we started out last Sunday, talking about the grief that David had as he is mourning his son Absalom. And so we said, don't be scared of grief because grief is natural. Grief is a natural thing. It's going to happen when you lose someone or something because we don't necessarily always grieve over people. Sometimes we grieve over relationships that we've lost, and we grieve over a job that we had that we thought was our ideal job, and now it's gone, and so we're grieving over that. We just grieve over different things. We grieve over different things. And so it's a natural thing to grieve. But let me just start off doing it this way. I think I'm going to start at the end and go forth. So I have a little statement that I want you to talk about among yourselves this morning. All of this is as a result, everything that's happening in David's life at this point is as a result of what David did. And a lot of times that's a hard truth for us, that where we are or what we're going through is a result of what we've done. Okay, so here's my statement, and you all talk about it. Talk about it. Sometimes God's greatest judgment is to let us have our own way. Turn to your neighbor and say, neighbor, what do you think about that? See, I'll talk about that for a few minutes. Sometimes God's greatest judgment is... We talked about most of us think that we know what's best for us. Y'all listening?
When we have a person come into our life and kind of show us the things that we need to change or our areas where we're not doing so good in, and then a lot of times others can see things in us and areas that we need to change that we can't see ourselves. So taking suggestions from others.
So what was the first thing you said, Heather?
That we think that we know what's best.
Okay, stop right there. How many of us think we know what's best for us? All right. Okay, case closed. Sit on down. Sit on down. Let's give them a hand. Give them a hand. All right. All right. You just preach right there. You just preach right there. We just think we do. And we do what we think is best for us. Sometimes we never consult the Lord. Now, Lord, what you think about it? You know, we just looking to the left, we don't look to the right. We just, full speed ahead. Yes, ma'am. All right.
I'm going to say, well, for a long time, I used to think that everything that I did, was right for me. But as I grow, then I consult God.
Okay.
Because I just depend on Him.
Okay.
So I consult Him just about everything.
All right. All right. Okay. Who's next then? As Mother Minnie is talking, I don't know how y'all did that, how you did your discussion. So who wants to comment next? We want to hear from everybody.
Well, like I said, it's all about the choices that you make.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You make good choices or bad choices.
Okay. Okay.
But you need to follow the instructions of God, not yourself.
Not yourself. And then sometimes the instructions, as we go back to the first group, sometimes the instructions, because a lot of times we're looking for the heavens to open up. And we're looking for God to say, Lawrence, don't do that. You know what I'm saying? No. Oh, we're looking for God to say, Heather, you know better. But how many of y'all know that sometimes God send Matisha in your life? They say, girl, you need to open up your eyes. You need to stop following your own instructions. Sometimes God might send Corman in your life. Sometimes God might send little Jay in your life and say, look, that ain't right. That ain't right. Because it may not be like you think. It may not be every time you're going to open up the word. And because sometimes you're just all confused. And God will send the right person to you to help you in your confusion. I'm preaching right now. I am. I'm preaching right now to myself. I'm preaching. Come on, y'all. Who's next? Who's next? Who's next? Sometimes God's best judgment is for us to let us have our own way.
That's when you get them bout lessons, Lady Deborah.
Come on. Just right.
We had a lot of great comments back here, but it's like you're dealing with two wills, God's will and your will, and it's hard. I'm thinking about us when Jesus told Saul it's hard to kick against a prick.
Come on.
But we're fighting against human nature versus the spirit. I can remember Pastor Bland teaching on we're spirit first, then soul, then body last. But it's hard in our human nature to fight against our body and our mind without the spiritual guidance and leadership in our body. And so I commented that I'm 39 now, but it might be when I might be 99. And God will open my eyes to really what He wants me to know. But in spite of me being 99, I still have to seek God in order to get a better understanding in this position that I am now, in order to be a better friend, in order to be a better brother, be a better husband, And so it's all about what God decides to reveal to me as I'm seeking Him versus seeking my own understanding.
Praise God. Anybody else want to comment on that? Anybody?
I was thinking also have to change, and we have to humble ourselves. And God send people in our lives when we can't see where we wrong, and we always think we right, but God will put a person right there to help you get out of self, to help you humble yourself. And God can't stand a proud man, and I can speak for myself. Sometimes I don't want to hear nothing you got to say, because I'm telling you how I feel, and you're going to tell me what I need to do. So I have to, Lord, help me, please, to see what He's saying and try to let me understand it and help me on my way.
I believe that's a true statement right there. I believe you just freed yourself. I do.
And about 2 or 3 others.
Because that's the truth from here to heaven. Because sometimes you into what you feeling. And you don't want nobody to take that from you. You don't want anybody to pull that away from you because you feel like you justified in feeling the way you feeling. Okay, did I see it, Brother Monroe? Okay.
We better hurry up and hear him, cause you know, God have a way of dealing with you. We have a way of dealing with ourselves. Sometimes we do things that we want to do. We know better, but we do it anyway. There are consequences behind everything you do, whether it's good or bad. There's consequences behind it. My situation was smoking.
Yes.
I was warned. God, I believe God sent this doctor to warn me if I wanted to live a normal life to stop smoking. I ignored it. And where I'm at now, I got COPD. Those are the consequences that I'm suffering now for being hard-headed. I knew better, but I liked what I was doing. And I didn't pay any attention to what anyone else said.
I think you just freed somebody else too. I knew better, but I lacked what I was doing. Let's go all the way back to David, and let's just bring it on back home. David knew better. We can go all the way back to 2 Samuel, the 12th chapter, or the 11th chapter, where he saw Bathsheba on the rooftop. And we could go all the way back to Shay, and someone else over here, Brother Lawrence, said that it's the decisions you make. Because God has given you the free will to make your own decisions. You're not a robot. You're not a robot, so you can say yay or nay. You can decide to do it or not to do it, and God's going to allow you to do that because that's the kind of God he is. Now, let me say this also, that God is God, and because he is God, he has the ability to stop you dead in your tracks in whatever it is you're doing. But because he's God, he's going to allow you to make your own decision. And sometimes the decision you make then is going to be the difference in whether you succeed or whether you fail. And so it's just like Saul on his way to Damascus when God stopped him, arrested him. He thought he was right. He thought he was doing what God wanted him to do. But God had to arrest him, and God had to show him that he was blinded. He had scales on his eyes, and God had to remove the scales from his eyes. And that's how God has to do us a lot of times. We think we so right. We don't want to hear nobody because we right, and no matter what you say about it, that's just the way it is. And so God has to remove the scales from our eyes. Sometimes it's about allowing something to happen or allowing us to go into a situation or allowing us to see that no, you don't know everything. And everything you do is not the right thing. Everything you do is not the right thing. And so he allowed David to do that because he could have stopped David dead in his tracks. He allowed that to happen. But he also judged David. And this is what he said. He says in his judgment of what he did with Bathsheba, he said, now therefore the sword shall never depart from thine household, because thou hast despised me, and have taken the wife of Uriah the Hittite to be thy wife. In other words, David, you knew better. You knew better. But even with what you knew, you decided to go ahead and do things your way. You decided to do things your way because that's what you loved. David loved women. But it got the best of him. So because of what he loved, he had to fight for the rest of his life. The rest of his natural life, he had to fight.
I think also that I don't think it's a bad thing by going through these things. Having these bad, to go through certain things. Because if you don't go through it, you never will be able to define yourself.
Oh, I believe that.
That the mistakes that you are making, if you didn't go through it, you will continually do it. And then, but once you go through it, then your eyes will come open and say, I'm wrong. I was wrong.
I believe that. I also believe that just because your eyes become open doesn't mean that you might not do something else again. I do. I believe that. I believe that. Because we're going to see here, even in the lesson as we go forward. And David, my God, David, you should have learned your lesson by now. But even David, a man after God's own heart, he got lifted up into pride. He got lifted up in pride because, this is when, as we get towards the end of this book, he went and numbered the people. God didn't tell him to do that. God didn't tell him to do that. But sometimes, y'all, I'm telling you, God allows us to do what we want to do, just to show us, Brother Davis, and teach us. And y'all, we have to remain teachable. We have to remain teachable. You can't stop being stiff-necked. We got to remain teachable.
I think one of the ways God allows every human being to remain teachable is by seeing the lesson in what others are going through. And so it's a lesson for you, but it's a blessing for me.
Boy, that's a sermon topic. It's a lesson for you, but it's a blessing for me. I believe that. Amen.
Sometimes he is saying a person, and that person will tell you what is right. And it appears you all of a sudden, and you'll realize that person was telling you the truth. And you need, whatever you're doing, you need to stop it.
Yeah. I believe that. Great discussion. Anybody else, Brother Colray, you want to add to that?
Well, what I had to say is just like when we used them with our parents, they would always tell us, like I used the illustration back there about when the heater, years ago we had heaters, and our parent would always tell us that heat is hot, that fire is hot. But us as being as children, we have to go and find out for ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
And so the Lord allows us to go through things to let us know that that's not the right way to go.
I declare David was able to testify to us today, wasn't he? We read right now, and we can read the testimony of David. Lord, have mercy on me.
Good morning.
Good morning.
It's a great lesson. David, I feel it was, sometimes, man, you can just start believing your own press.
Yes.
You know what I mean? And God had just blessed him abundantly, more than he ever thought that God would bless him. And sometimes, man, we don't realize that when we're blessed, we become to believe our own press, and we start being self-righteous. And we start looking at us. And then it's a saying that I put in my phone. I just believe attention is the worst kind of...
Wow.
What is it, Tish? What is it saying? I just think people say money is the worst thing money is the root of all evil. I believe attention is the root of all evil.
Wow.
The more attention you get, and you start to believe people will tell you this, and David, man, it's good when he was humble, and when he was at his lowest, and when God had blessed him, he could see God. But then when people started giving him his praise, and he removed God, and it's easy to do. It's very easy to do. People will say, no, man, I won't do that. That won't be me. But you never had that opportunity, and you never been in that position. And so God put those things in his way. So, and he started believing that. So I'm just getting a lot out of that. That's just my 2 cents.
Man, that's deep right there. Man. Yeah.
I think God put us between two choices, and that's right and wrong, and you're in between them. And it's all up to you to which side you can go on. So.
Anybody else? Let's give everybody a big hand. Miss Dorothy?
If we learn to just be obedient to God's word, and we learn to let the Spirit guide and lead us, we can't go wrong. Because God give us a choice. And the choice is choose this day whom thou want to serve. So we have a conscience. And our conscience tell us what's right and what's wrong. Our conscience condemn us when we do wrong and studying his word.
Okay. Let me say this. And I enjoy everything that I've heard. The problem with making right choices is the fact that Paul says it good when he says, I consent with my mind. Like you said, Dorothy, I know what's right. I ain't had to come to church or nothing. I think God puts within every human being an understanding of what's right and wrong. You know, that's why I do it and I hide, or I sneak, or I try to do it out of you, because I know I'm wrong when I'm doing it.
Wrong, yeah.
You see? But Paul said, I consent with my mind, but then I find another law warring in my members. So when I sin, it's not necessarily me, but it's sin that dwelleth within me. And that's what the church doesn't want to address. The church want to act like you got some kind of power over sin, and all you got to do is just to make the decision not to do it. There's two mechanisms I can see that you can use. One is humility, and the other one is faith. The Bible said the just shall live by faith.
Yes.
The righteousness that you find, you'll find it by faith. You won't find it by your willpower. That's right. Because you'll find, if you're honest, that your willpower will fail you. Yes. Every time. Your willpower will fail you. And that's why you find yourself, Vandal Jr., you say, you know, things I thought I wouldn't do. Yep. You get full of yourself and you think you judging other folks and, you know, they doing it. I would never do that. Yeah. And like Vandal said, well, maybe you never had that opportunity that came. So then I'm knowing, I mean, and it's really kind of bad to say, and it's bad to say in church because what we're not used to, but sin is in my members. Yes. And so then I'm going to sin. That's not an excuse to sin. That's not a license to sin. That's accepting the word. But I can overcome it by faith, by accepting the death, burial, and resurrection and being dead unto sin. The old man is crucified, but it's by faith. It's not by my efforts and how much I come to church or how much I put in or how dedicated I get to the church or whatever. It's going to be by faith. I have to walk by faith. And so then I should not beat myself up necessarily because don't have 100% record or don't do this. It's God has made provisions.
Yeah.
And the provision is him coming down and dying in our place for sin. That's right. It's not for us to get rid of sin. We can't get rid of sin.
Because how many of you know, thank you, Pastor Bland, that you have overcome in one area and then something else comes along that you see that you need help with overcoming that. So, you know, it would be really simple if you could say, well, I'm done. But when you get done with one thing, something else pops up.
I think what Vandal Jr. brought out today, man, that's just like, I got my message, I can go home.
I'm trying to tell you. Because
that's what self-feed off of.
Yes.
Attention.
Yes. That is so true.
That's not saying I'm going to do no better, but I heard you.
No, I got that. I certainly got that. And so now we're at a point where David is grieving. And someone said, somebody, I believe, and somebody else said that God places somebody in your path that has to shake you and help to open up your eyes. And that person was Joab. That person was Joab for David, because David was grieving excessively. And we said there's nothing wrong with the grief, but David was a king. Now, you got to grieve, David. You grieve, but you got these people you got to lead. So at some point, you had to get up and shake yourself and get back to what it is God called you to do, and that was to be the leader of Israel. So Joab had to come to him in chapter 19, verse 1. I'm in 2 Samuel 19, verse 1. And it was told Joab, behold, the king weepeth and mourneth for Absalom. And the victory that day was turned in the morning unto all the people, for the people heard say that day how the king was grieved for his son, a natural thing. And the people gat them by stealth that day unto the city, as people being ashamed steal away when they flee in battle. But the king covered his face, and the king cried with a loud voice, "Oh, my son Absalom! Oh, Absalom, my son, my son!" And Joab came into the house to the king and said, "Thou hast shamed this day the faces of all thy servants, which this day have saved thy life. and the lives of thy sons and of thy daughters, and the lives of thy wives and the lives of thy concubines. David, these people out here fighting, not just for their life, but they're fighting for your life too. And now you laying around here, you hollering about calling on Absalom, somebody that didn't mean you any good. You got to man up. You got to man up. In that thou lovest thine enemies. Now who is he talking about? Absalom. Loving thine enemies and hateth thy friends. These are people that care about you. These people care about you. These people love you. For thou hast declared this day that thou regardest neither princes nor servants. For this day I perceive that if Absalom had lived and all we had died this day, then it had pleased thee well. All you care about is Absalom. You can't see nothing but Absalom. You can't see that the people went out and fought and people died because, everybody didn't come back home. Your people died to protect the kingdom. People died because they believe in you. People believe in your leadership. People want to see you on the throne. Absalom wasn't a real king. These people died because of you. Now therefore, arise, go forth and speak comfortably unto thy servants. Now this is where you really sound black. For I swear by the Lord, if thou go not forth, there will not tarry one with thee this night, and that will be worse unto thee than all the evil that befell thee from thy youth until now. You want to look around, talking about you the king, you the leader. You ain't going to have nobody back there. You're not going to have anybody back there. And so thank God for a Joab. Thank God for a Joab. Thank God for somebody that will tell you the truth. Brother Corman, somebody that will tell you the truth. Y'all, and I say this all the time, but it's just the truth from here to heaven. You got to have somebody in your life, Madeline, that's willing to tell you the truth. Don't look for everybody to agree with everything you're saying. Somebody got to tell you the truth. Somebody has to have the courage to tell you the truth. That's a friend. That's a friend. Somebody has to have the courage to tell you, no, baby, you're wrong about that. You're not looking at that right. You're not looking at that right. And sometimes, it's from people we don't want to hear. Sometimes it's your child. VJ has to come to me sometime. I don't know. Sometimes he think he's my daddy for real. But you got to have that. Sometimes it's your children have to help you. Mama, you ain't right. That ain't right. And sometimes you have to have the humility to accept it. You have to have the humility to accept it. And so he arose and set in the gate, and things got a little better. Verse 9 said, and all the people were at strife throughout all the tribes of Israel, saying, the king saved us out of the hand of our enemies, and he delivered us out of the hand of the Philistines, and now he is fled out of the land for Absalom. And Absalom, who we anointed over us, is dead in battle. Now, therefore, why speak ye not a word of bringing the king back? Okay, so you see, he had to come back and be placed back into his rightful place. And so David now gets ready to make a trip back to Jerusalem. And it's kind of strange because it's kind of like he's rewinding. And we saw him as he was going forth, fleeing out of Jerusalem. And so it's now it's kind of like he's walking backwards. And as he's walking backwards, and he's not really walking backwards, but as he's going back to Jerusalem, he's meeting the people. He's meeting the situations that he met as he was fleeing Jerusalem. And so he appoints now another nephew, Amasa, as head of his armies. Now remember, Joab was the captain. Now why do you think he appointed Amasa as head over his armies? Just any thought on that? And Amasa is his nephew from his sister, David's sister, Abigail. David has sisters, and Abigail was one of his sisters, and one of her children, Amasa, he made captain instead of Joab. Why do you think that is? Not necessarily so, but remember, Joab killed Absalom. Joab killed Absalom. Now, I don't really know if that's the reason, but I'm thinking, because of the love that he had for Absalom, they find the word got back to him of how Absalom died. And so David now, had got a little grudge going. And so, he took Joab away from being, look, in verse 13, well, let me go back here because they have to bring him back. They have to get him back and place him in his rightful place. And in verse 11 says, King David sent to Zadok and to Abiathar the priest, saying, speak unto the elders of Judah, saying, why are ye the last to bring the king back to his house, seeing the speech of all Israel is come to the king, even to his house? Ye are my brethren, ye are my bones and my flesh. Wherefore then are ye the last to bring back the king? And say ye to Amasa, art thou not of my bone and of my flesh? God do so to me, and more also, if thou be not captain of the host before me continually in the room or in the place of Joab. And so he bowed the heart of all the men of Judah, even as the heart of one man, so that they sent this word unto the king, return thou and all thy servants. And so now he comes back, he's coming back, and as he is coming back, he meets Shimei. You remember Shimei was the one who was throwing the rocks and calling and the clumps of dirt, calling him a bloody man. And so Shimei now remember, David is getting back. Absalom's dead, so David is getting back into his rightful place. Shimei realizes that, oh Lord, I messed up. I messed up. So he falls at his feet at the river Jordan, and then he asked for forgiveness. That's in verse 16. And then he meets Mephibosheth. And remember how Ziba had come and said that Mephibosheth was kind of aligned with Absalom. Well, now David finds out that that wasn't the truth. He meets Mephibosheth and he hears why Mephibosheth didn't join him in the wilderness. And then he meets Barzillai, who befriended him in the wilderness. And then he invites him to come to Jerusalem to live with him. And so David is constantly, it's a fight. So as he crosses the Jordan, then he comes up with to another rebellion.
Lady Deborah, let me ask you something. Did anybody mean David any good?
It doesn't seem like it. And then it seems like the one that meant him some good, he really wasn't able to see that.
I think you made a great point last week about Uriah the Hittite. The fact that the person that was most loyal to him, he killed him.
Yeah, that's something. And so now he meets somebody else because attention. Everybody wants some attention. And it depends on what you're going to do with the attention once you get it. Because the attention can place you in a bad spot sometimes. It all started when they were, David or Saul has killed his thousands. But David has killed his tens of thousands. Y'all, depending on who you are and where you are in your life, that could send you to your grave. You can't handle it. You cannot handle it. You can't handle it.
When you said that, what I thought about everybody loves it. Attention. I guess the best I can do is try to differentiate, why am I getting the attention? Am I getting this attention because this person loved me? Am I getting it because they actually trying to use me? I was kind of amazed even in my 40s and 50s that when I go over my mom's house, my mom would come out, then my dad would stop what he was doing in order to come, and I started to realize, I said, these folk really glad to see me. They really glad, and I didn't have to do the things I had to do with other folks in order to get their attention and whatever. So I guess there's nothing wrong with it. It's just, why are you getting the attention?
Why are you getting it? And that's a good point, and we can go back, and I'm going to close here, but we can go back to, sometimes you'll say, you talk about the nerd who was in high school, who got no attention, or if he got attention, it was negative attention. But then he grows up to be a beautiful swan. okay? And he's a swan because he's making money. He's a swan because he's making money. He know how to get his hair cut right now, get that right shade, driving the right car. And so now he got all the attention. Why are you getting the attention? Are you getting the attention because of who you are on the inside or what you got on the outside? And what you gonna do with it? You got to know, and Lord knows, you got to know. We go back to knowing your limitations and know what it is you can stand. Some of us can't stand nothing. It's a sad thing to say. All it takes is one person to come up and show you their teeth.
And Lady Deborah, I would say that in the church, how people will manipulate you with attention, and in order to keep you at that church, give you attention, give you that position, and whatever. And I was around some of the old people that I used to go to church with yesterday, and I had a defining moment. I was talking with another guy, and I was telling him that I said, man, you always was better than the way they treated you. You always was. And I said, and you made it. You made it anyway. And then I started talking about myself. And the truth of the matter, Mother Helen, is all I ever wanted for them was to love me and to accept me just as a brother and whatever. But it didn't ever happen. And this is the crazy thing about it, is that they can walk around me now just like ain't nothing happened. Just looking for the next opportunity they can take something from me. You know, they ain't tore up about it. They are not tore up about how I feel about it or what happened to me or what I went through or nothing like that. It's like they don't even know.
Amen. Pastor, Sister Mother Helen.
When I was growing up, we were taught that we were better than anybody else because we were, what the scripture said we were, thank you, Jolisa. The scripture said we were chosen generation, and so we couldn't play with this person because they were Baptists. We couldn't play, that's just the way they, that's what they need. And they don't speak now,
Anybody else? You know what? I believe this is a good place for us to stop, and we'll pick up at chapter 20, 2 Samuel chapter 20 next Sunday.
I think you got Deacon Fred Sanford.
Okay.
And what I wanted to say is once they realize that you have a mind to think for yourself, that's fear to them.
Yeah. You're shocked. That's shock value. I'm going through something right now with a family member. I'll say that my husband said, well, you're the middle child and everybody's just used to you, agreeing, or everybody's just used to you just getting along and everything. And so this time I didn't agree. And it was shock to the person. So, I don't know what to do with that. Y'all had to pray for me about that situation. But, at some point, you said enough is enough already. You know what I'm talking about? Enough already. Enough. I'm not, you got to stop the madness. And I'm not going there with you.
But, Lady Deborah, I was talking to somebody about, a guy accused me of something. I thought we were really, it's something when you think that you really got something, a relationship with a person, and you really don't have it. You find out you're like, we ain't. And I really thought we would stay on the phone for an hour or two, like we were boyfriend and girlfriend. And he accused me of something, and I told him, no. And then, and I finally realized that'd been 5 years ago. And what I've realized, Mr. Davis, is he don't care. And so what I'm trying to do is, man, you know what? You don't care? I'm trying to move on.
Yeah.
I'm walking around here messed up by somebody that don't even care.
Yeah. Telling y'all, I'm gonna leave this with you. You better find your tribe for real. You better find your tribe.